Hello and good morning, everyone, or good whatever time of day it is in your part of the world. I am so incredibly excited to welcome you all to SciAccess 2020, the Virtual Science Accessibility Conference. My name is Anna Voelker, and I am the SciAccess Conference Director. I work as the Coordinator of Outreach at The Ohio State University's Department of Astronomy and the Center for Cosmology and AstroParticle Physics, located in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States. Today's SciAccess Conference is dedicated to promoting disability inclusion and diversity within science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or STEM for short. This means many things, including addressing inequities in our educational systems. It means sharing innovative resources in order to make scientific research methods more accessible. It means learning about the experiences and ideas of underrepresented STEM professionals. And most of all, it means taking what we have learned here today and implementing long overdue changes within our own institutions and communities. In the United States, approximately 1 in 5 people have a disability, and yet only 1 in 100 PhD scientists and engineers have a disability. Why is this? How did we go from 20% to just 1%? These numbers are so jarringly mismatched because we have placed societal barriers in the way of these students. From a lack of role models with whom they can identify to a deficit of inclusive educational science resources, countless students with disabilities have been needlessly denied opportunities within STEM. In 2017, African American students earned only 1.2% of all doctorates awarded in physics in the US. Looking at academia more broadly, only 6% of all faculty members in the United States are Black. It is important to recognize that this is within the context of a society where we are repeatedly witnessing Black people being murdered by police in the United States and forced to seek justice through a legal system that is entrenched in racial bias. I would be remiss if I did not mention this within the context of the current events in our society. Despite the unbearable images in the news, many white Americans still refuse to recognize this as a problem. We are forced to ask, how many more deaths will the Black community have to endure before reform takes place, until empty statements from our leaders are replaced by meaningful action? We must realize that these issues are not detached from academia. Deep-rooted racism and implicit bias runs through our systems, our institutions, ourselves. What can we be doing as individuals to address the need for change within society, academia, and our own social circles? The weight and complexity of these issues makes it difficult to know where to begin. To help people get started with this conversation, the Ohio State Departments of Astronomy and Physics members have compiled a document of anti-racism resources. I'm now going to share the link to this document in the chat. This contains resources including information on how to protest safely, as well as actions you can take beyond the streets, donation suggestions, and anti-racism books and articles to read for self-education. These issues are not unique to the United States, and neither is today's conference. We are joined by over 1,000 people from 46 different countries in all 7 continents, including Antarctica. Over 20% of the world's nations are represented here today. For those who are interested, in the chat, I will now share the complete list of all the countries from which our attendees are calling in this morning. Our attendees range from middle school students to retired professionals. Among us are disability advocates, astrophysicists, educators, policymakers, accessibility specialists, lawyers, artists, students, parents, nurses, scientists, engineers, and so many others. While we come from different nations, fields of study, and stages in life, we all have one thing in common: an interest in making STEM more accessible. I am incredibly excited and inspired by this outpouring of enthusiasm and support that I have witnessed from this global community. The SciAccess initiative began 1 year ago with the support of Ohio State's President's Prize, a grant program created by the OSU President, Dr. Michael V. Drake. Exactly 1 year ago today, we hosted the inaugural SciAccess Conference in Ohio for an audience of 250 people. Now that our audience has grown to over 1,000, we want to ensure that our participants and our efforts stay connected well beyond today's event. In order to accomplish this, I'm so excited to announce the formation of the SciAccess Working Group. This is an informal collective of STEM accessibility professionals that we are establishing in partnership with Craig Moore of the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. Next month, members of this working group will have their projects and initiatives published at sciaccess.org so that people around the world can benefit from their work. If you are looking for ways to share your ideas, experiences, or projects in the world of STEM accessibility, I encourage you to email me after today's meeting in order to join this collaboration. I'm now going to share my email in the chat so that all of you have access to it. In addition to the working group, we have also established the SciAccess community group on Facebook, which serves as a place to share resources and connect with your other conference attendees. If you have not already done so, I encourage you to become a member of this group through the following link in the chat. Today's event is hosted by the Ohio State University Department of Astronomy and the Center for Cosmology and AstroParticle Physics, or CCAPP. I would like to thank my amazing supervisors, Distinguished Professor Dr. David Weinberg, Chair of the Department of Astronomy, and Distinguished Professor Dr. John Beacom, Director of CCAPP. Without their dedication to inclusion and unwavering support of accessible science outreach, this event would never have been possible. I would also like to thank Craig Moore, our NASA collaborator, and Professor Wayne Schlingman, the Director of Ohio State's Planetarium, for all of their help in organizing this event. I also wish to thank my incredible student team, Shraven Natarajan, Caitlin O'Brien, and my undergraduate research student, Michaela Deming, without whom we never would have been able to reach so many of you. I also wish to thank Dr. Michael Drake and the OSU President's Prize team for believing in this initiative and making our start possible. Last but not least, I wish to thank all of today's phenomenal speakers who will be sharing their expertise and experience in the world of accessible STEM. A special thanks goes to astronaut Soyeon Lee for taking the time out of her busy schedule in order to deliver today's keynote address. All of today's sessions will be recorded, and the links to the videos will be published on sciaccess.com, sciaccess.org, excuse me. We expect this to become available next month. If you have to leave at any time, you are free to rejoin the event at any moment with the same link you used to log on this morning. The event will begin with a series of talks by speakers who have been invited back from last year's inaugural conference, followed by 4 sessions from featured 2020 speakers who are new to the SciAccess stage. We will have a 1-hour break for lunch from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. This conference will culminate in Dr. E's keynote address, which will begin at 3 p.m. and end at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. From 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, we will be hosting a post-conference social hour for anyone who is interested in continuing the conversation. These will be broken up into 4 separate Zoom rooms, arranged by topic. Please refer to your conference schedule sent by email for additional details. I'd also like to call your attention to today's accessibility features. Throughout the entire conference, we will have American Sign Language interpreting and live card captioning. If you have a question at any time, please use the Q&A feature in order to submit this. You will notice that we have turned off the chat function. This is because it interferes with captions for those who are using their mobile devices. Because of this, the chat will only be turned on during breaks when no one is speaking. At all other times, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature for all of your comments and questions. If you have a question that you wish to ask verbally, you may click the raise hand button. If there is time, we will enable your microphone access and you'll be invited to unmute yourself and ask your question aloud. If you wish to ask a question in American Sign Language, you may submit a request to do so in the Q&A. We will then be able to grant you video access so that you can sign your question, which will be voiced by our interpreters. While I am thrilled for the presentations and discussions that await us, I am even more excited to build for the chance to build a long-lasting community with all of you, whose impacts extend far beyond this event. I strongly encourage you to join our Facebook group and to reach out to me if you're interested in becoming a member of the SciAccess Working Group. In the wake of COVID-19's onset, we are at a point in global history when it is so easy to look out into this world and to feel despair, to feel disconnected, to feel alone. When it comes to advancing access to equitable education and STEM opportunities, I see the scale of today's audience as an overwhelming indication that we are not alone, nor can we pretend to be if we seek to achieve meaningful change. Making science accessible means partnering with others. It means learning from established initiatives around the world. It means identifying areas where new collaborations are needed. But most of all, it means listening to the ideas, experiences, and leadership of people who have been historically excluded from the STEM fields. Thank you all so much for being here with us today.